Well, of course, the main three demands for the movements are, of course, the resignation of the prime minister, and the second one is the drafting the new constitution, and the third one is the reforming of the monarchy. So lifting the emergency decree is a good side, but of course, it's not enough for the whole situation and the mass protest that is ongoing.
The protesters have given the Prime Minister 3 days to resign or face further mass demonstrations. Do you think he is in a position, do you think he will listen to that call?
Well, it's actually a very interesting question because if you asked me like 2 weeks ago, I would say he didn't pay attention at all to the demands of the protester, but he's now stepping back and seems like they are willing to at least engage in the conversation. If the government is not going to mobilize also the royalists or their supporters to clash with the pro-democracy protesters. So, well, I mean, we will see.
So do you feel in a way him lifting the state of emergency is a sign of weakness?
Well, okay, first of all, we would say like maybe he's willing to engage in the conversation and maybe he's now more interested to find a way out of the whole situation. If the government is not going to mobilize their supporters to clash with the protester on the street, because right now there's no emergency decree, anyone can go out and then organize themselves. So it's also kind of dangerous situation in that sense. So we have to keep an eye on the situation.
Yeah, you're right. It could become a clash of protesters rather than the military crackdown, which you experienced as a red shirt 6 years ago. That was a very brutal crackdown. How concerned are you? How fearful are you for your own safety if you get in the middle of demonstrators and the military do become more forceful?
Well, the thing is, if there's no intervention from the government to mobilize their supporters to clash with pro-democracy protests, I don't think there's no any condition that they will drive the tanks or that they will drag on the armed weapons, because we don't use violence at all. I mean, even when we face the blockade or even when we face the royalist supporters from the government side, we just deal with things with the strict non-violent principle. So there's no any triggering point, I would say. So they don't have any reason to use the violence against protesters.
Some argue that your movement, this current protest movement, does not represent the broader Thai community's views. What do you say to that?
That is a tricky question, because if we look at the protest that has been taking place in July, right? So the first one that kicked off was on 18th of July. We can count more than, let's say, 200 protests already took place all over the country. Of course, the number varies, some big, some small, but we cannot really say that this movement does not represent what Thai people want. Otherwise, people wouldn't go out in provinces.
Yeah. Tell me personally how you feel about continuing this sort of level of defiance. It's hard to watch from afar because we take our democracy for granted to a degree, but you're fighting so hard for this, yet you face charges. You've been arrested, you've been charged, you could face years in jail. What makes you want to keep going?
Well, as you said already, we just want that one day that maybe the next generation can say what you just said, like we take democracy for granted. We just want that day, that they don't have to fight what we are fighting.
That one day to vote.
Exactly, that one day that everyone can just say like, yeah, Thailand, Thai people take democracy for granted. We have it as let's say, as a default setting for everything that will move forward for the country. So it's not like we have to keep fighting over and over. We just want it to end in our generation. Just want to get it done here.
Pimsiri, do you feel this is a different movement to the one, that yellow, red shirt battle of 6 years ago? Do you feel there's a different sense to this, the fact that you are talking out so openly against the monarchy, against the government?
Well, one character that is very interesting about this movement is actually kind of horizontal. I mean, of course, there are certain level of organization, but everyone can participate. So if you look closely, you will see like the role of different sectors in the society. There's a group for women rights advocates. There's a group for queer LGBT rights advocate. There's a group for labor rights advocate, and also disability people. So it's very intersectional. So this one, that's why I mean, that's why I said it. Well, I mean, we cannot. I mean, of course, it's more broader and it's more inclusive in that sense.
I mean, I've been very fascinated to see this Milk Tea Alliance develop. This is activists who've come together from Hong Kong, Thailand and Taiwan. How has this helped strengthen your movement, do you think?
It's actually very helpful, and I have to say thank you for many people. For example, Joshua Wong, because I mean, Thailand, of course, we are not an English-speaking country. So having them, Taiwanese people, Hong Kong people, helping us to amplify the issues. So of course, that helps us a lot in terms of gaining international attention.
Pimsiri, appreciate you joining us. Thanks so much.
Thank you.